The information in this podcast is not legal advice and should not be construed as such. It is for informational and educational purposes only.
Welcome to Resource Sessions. I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Sterk Family Law, and today we have Samantha of Rose Rae Hair Studio with us. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I know that I just learned that you were Business of the Year in New Lenox Chamber last year, and some exciting things are happening. But not only do you provide services in cosmetology, but you also have an additional part of your programs that you have there.
Yes.
And you started groups. Can you tell us a little bit about these groups?
So I started a create and design grief support group. So obviously my brain thinks about everything in a creative light. So I wanted to, shed light on something that I don't think is talked about enough, which is grief. And grief can come in all different forms. Typically, it is remembrance and loss. And we meet up once a month. I come up with a new theme every month, and we actually make remembrance pieces to honor those that have passed.
Sure. And you talked about, the different types of grief. It could be grief from the loss of a loved one, grief from loss of a pet, grief
Yes.
from a divorce, a lot of different things in that combination, correct?
Yes, definitely. I think you can look at grief in many different ways.
Sure. So what was the impetus that got you to start these types of groups?
Oh, this is a tough one. So my dad actually passed away 8 years ago on Thanksgiving, and I told myself I wasn't going to cry. My life changed in a matter of 24 hours.
Sure.
My dad was like a best friend to me, and I still look back at that day, and I'm just very thankful that I have found resources and tools to kind of push through and figure out how to navigate my own grief. And a year after my dad died, my brother actually passed away.
Wow.
So that was my only sibling. I lost two of the most important men in my life within a year.
Sure. And that's a
So
real tough thing. So that led you to do this, right?
definitely. I started a grief support group a week after my dad died at the new Lenox Library. I had no idea what I was doing. I just desperately needed to be around people who understood what I was going through. And I just hoped that people would show up, and they did. And I'm still super thankful for all of the people that I got to meet. And then when I opened my business, I just thought, I meet so many people behind the chair. I've lost clients recently. I have friends and family who they're going through other forms of grief. It's just there's so many people hurting.
Right.
And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to open up my space and hope that people come, because it does help me tremendously being around people who understand.
Sure. And I'm sure that it's an opportunity for everybody to come in and have a place to just go to and take your guard down and really talk about it and recover from it, right?
Yes. Yes,
That's
definitely.
wonderful. So now you welcome participants into your group. So can anybody join your group who's listening today?
Yeah, so I post on my hair page for each month what the session is, what we are designing. And I also posted in some of the new Lenox groups, and I got a lot of requests. So I typically like to keep the group sizes pretty small so it's more authentic, a safer space. You're free to, talk amongst each other as if we've known each other forever. And yeah, it's been very impactful so far.
That's wonderful. Now, is there some story of somebody attending the groups, a memorable story or experience from the session that highlights or stands out for you? It'd be interesting to hear about that.
So honestly, after every session, for me, just getting a message from somebody, just telling me how much they needed this and just how thankful and grateful they are to have a space to go to. I mean, that just like hits my heart right there, like where I know that like this is what I'm meant to do. And one of the ladies that came, she thanked me, and we were actually making remembrance ornaments around the holidays. And she actually dropped me off these holders outside of my salon door, and she just thanked me so much for having her come. So now, like, my remembrance ornament, I have like hanging on my shelf.
Oh,
So it was
nice.
just,
Yeah.
so it was just like a nice, like, it's like a ripple effect, like giving to somebody, and then she came and like dropped me off something, and just like a little token of appreciation. So I thought it was
100%.
really
Yeah.
nice.
So somebody's listening today and they're hesitant to join a grief support group, but they know they need to have an outlet to start talking about them. What advice would you give to somebody who's just sitting back saying, I don't know if I can do this?
I think it's about a matter of perspective. I think sometimes we think of support as we're weak or we shouldn't show emotion. We have to carry this heavy load on our shoulders. And I think, speaking from experience, it's very hard for me to even share my story right now, but I think there's so much power in being vulnerable and being able to express yourself and know that sharing your story, you're going to help people along the way. So instead of looking at it as maybe, there's something wrong, maybe just seeing it as you went through something traumatic that is an awful experience and you should not have to do it alone. There are people that will hear you and understand you and be there for you in the ways that you need emotionally.
100%. I agree with that. Now, how can somebody's friends or family members support their loved ones? So, I can think of somebody today who really could benefit from a support group like this. How do you recommend that you go about trying encouraging somebody to go to a support group and really reach out?
So it's tough because I think that you have to be ready. And sometimes, you join when you aren't ready, but you have a friend or family member who kind of encourages you to go. So I will say that I think joining at first, maybe with your mom, with your best friend, with somebody who's also been impacted by grief. So that way you don't necessarily have to feel alone. Like you have your own support system with you. And I'm noticing that with each group, people are bringing somebody in their family or somebody close to them. So I think that's important, is just maybe trying to bring somebody with you on your first session.
Sure, and just an outlet.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into more questions, I just want to share with you that I think it's wonderful what you're doing, because I have some very close friends who are now married many years, well in excess of maybe 10 years, and they met at a grief support group. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
So she had lost her husband, and he had never been married and lost his mother. And they both went to the grief support group, and through the social things that they did, they just got to know each other, and it became an opportunity for them. They fell in love and got married. So you just don't know
Right.
what it is.
Wow.
And I remember them talking about the fact that just having that outlet to talk about where they were really helped that recovery, and in opening up, it led to more opportunities. And I'm not saying that it's a dating site or anything like that, but I'm
Right.
saying that it is something you can get friendships, right? God brings into
Definitely.
your life new people that you need. Maybe you've lost somebody, but maybe you'll meet somebody here who'll become a dear and cherished friend for you that'll help you provide that support. So it's an absolutely wonderful opportunity. So that leads me to the next question. What resources do you recommend for those that may not have access to an in-person support group? Because I know you have it open in New Lenox and it's a wonderful opportunity, but somebody listening today may say, I don't even know where to start.
Right. So I always let people know, like, I'm not a licensed counselor by any means, although that was my first dream. But I have actually met a lot of counselors in the New Lenox area. So if they aren't really ready for, something what I'm doing, and they actually need a little bit more support that what I could give, I actually have referrals and resources that I can share with them who I've had the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful, because it gives them an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And, if we're here today and we're listening, we're saying, look, this is absolutely wonderful. I know that, we've all lost it. This is not something that's exempt from any of us.
Right.
People might be at different points, but they hear that you're doing a support group. Is there a way that listeners can get involved with your organization or support your initiative?
Definitely. I've actually had people who have seen my post ask if they can donate money to volunteer, like to give, because I provide all the supplies for each session. I declined and I told them I appreciate it, but I guess for me, I just feel bad doing that. But people have asked if they could be a part of it or give money, or if, if we need anything for this group, like if it becomes bigger, if it expands more. I think there is a whole community of people who would be involved and who would help in some way.
Sure. No, and I think it's important sometimes that giving back after you've recovered a little bit is a way of healing yourself long term as well. So it's a
Yes.
wonderful opportunity. So, you have listeners hearing today and they're hearing your story and they're saying, it's time for me to reach out. What's the key takeaway or one of them you would want somebody listening today to remember from our discussion?
I would want people to remember that we are all suffering from many different things. We've all gone through trauma, we've gone through hardship, and I truly believe that nobody should have to do this alone. The weight that we're all carrying from whatever we've gone through, it's not meant to just be on our shoulders by ourselves. And surrounding yourself with like-minded people who understand what you're going through is going to greatly help your healing process.
Sure. No, and I absolutely agree with you. And I think that it can be different levels. I think that,
Yeah.
there's different support groups that are for kids, but this one is an activity-driven support group, which is really wonderful. It's another, way of dealing with it. So can you share a website or social information, social media presence where somebody can find out more information before we end our conversation today?
Yeah, so on my hair page on Facebook, Rose Rae Hair Studio, I will post every month what the session, like when the date is. It's always held at my location, and what activity or what remembrance piece that we are designing. So that will be on my page, my Instagram page, Rose Rae Hair as well. And then I am going to start adding more grief groups to my website at roserayhair.com.
It's absolutely wonderful. Well, what an opportunity. I hope if you're listening today and you're going through something and there's been something that's happened, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a death. It doesn't have to be a divorce. There's many levels of grief. Whatever that grief is, that you can reach out and try to figure out how to express yourself through the tools and the sessions that you're able to provide. We really appreciate you and we're so happy to have you in our community. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you so much.
Take care.